So the truth of the matter is, for 400,000 plus years, um, you know, even beyond that, but just in regards to um, black history, the colonization of the world by Babylonian man, um, the Caucasian man, has robbed, raped, and pillaged the land. You know, murder, just treachery, tyranny, across all the land for the money and the power. Um, so, being as a black man in America, you know, we've been run through the system, which is their system, for all these years. Um, and throughout time, throughout all the years that this process of brainwashing has gone on, you've been indoctrinated into the Babylonian system, systematic way of thinking, by their laws, um, by their religion, by their control. You know, truth be told, not to say that 400 plus thousand years ago there wasn't religion, or that African Americans didn't have religion, or belief in God, but the true culture of the religion has been lost. Um, you know, there's been slavery since, you know, the time of Christ. There's been slavery from the beginning, you know. So, in reality's terms, you know, you really don't know where you come from, and you really don't know your true culture or your true history as an African American, or should I say, as an African person, um, because African American was made up by the colonial man. You know, um, your history was raped and robbed and pillaged. It was stolen from you, just as you were stolen from the land where you came from, or where your ancestors came from. Um, you know, if you actually dig deep and you just take a little peek into history, and you actually read books, or investigate the internet, you can find a lot of things that have been hidden from you. You know, they're not going to tell you these things because they couldn't have the whole world know, in possible, basically in their own fears of losing the power, and the control. You know, truth be told, Africans invented almost everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that other races of beings have not invented things, but the majority of things that were invented by African people from the beginning, or people of color from the beginning, that were stolen from them and patented by colonial Babylonian man. Um, you know, perfect example is, I'm sure a lot of people know about it, but a lot of people don't. Um, basically, the Black Wall Street Massacre. They try and dumb you down and make you think that you know nothing about wealth, or that your people know nothing about money and wealth, or organization, and community, and unity, because they want to keep you divided. They want to conquer by division. You know, the Tulsa Race Massacre took place on May 31st and June 1st, 1921, when mobs of white residents, some of whom had been deputized and given weapons by the city officials, attacked black residents and destroyed homes and businesses of the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma. U.S. alternatively known as the Tulsa Race Riot, or the Black Wall Street Massacre. The event is considered one of the single worst incidents of racial violence in American history. The attackers burned and destroyed more than 35 square blocks of neighborhoods. At the time, one of the wealthiest black communities in the United States, known as Black Wall Street. More than 800 people were admitted to the hospitals, and as many as 6,000 people or 6,000 residents of Tulsa were in, interned, which um, which interned uh, basically means um, interned means as a prisoner, confined, especially for political or military reasons. But in this case, as you can see, there was no cause or reason. Um, you know, it says they were interned in large facilities, meaning they were put in prison, many of them for several days. The Oklahoma Bureau of Vital Statistics officially recorded 36 people dead. A 2001 state commission examination of the events was able to confirm 39 people were dead, 26 black and 13 white, based on contemporary autopsy reports. Death certificates and other records proved that. The commissions gave several estimates ranging from 75 to 300 dead. The massacre began during the Memorial Day weekend after a 19-year-old Dick Rowland, a black shoe shiner, was accused of assaulting Sarah Page, the 17-year-old white elevator operator, in a nearby Drexel building. He was taken into custody. After Rowland was arrested, rumors that started that stated that he was going to be lynched were spread throughout the city, which they were spread throughout the city, and basically because of that, uh, it was basically which had seen a white man named Roy Belton lynched for the previous year. Um, Upon hearing reports of a mob of hundreds of white men had gathered around the jail where Rowland was being held, a group of 75 black men, some of whom were armed, arrived at the jail in order to ensure that Rowland would not be lynched. The sheriff persuaded the group to leave the jail, assuring them that he had the situation under control. An elderly white man approached O.B. Mann, a black man, and demanded that he hand over his pistol. Mann refused, and the old man attempted to disarm him. Mann shot him, and then, according to the sheriff's reports, all hell broke loose. At the end of the exchange of gunfire, 12 people were dead, 10 white men and 2 black. Subsequently, the militants fled back into Greenwood, as they went, shooting as they went. As news of the violence spread throughout the city, mob violence exploded. White rioters invaded Greenwood that night and the next morning, killing men and burning and looting stores, homes, businesses throughout the community. Around noon on June 1st, the Oklahoma National Guard imposed martial law, ending the massacre. So basically, for 2 days, the government let a massacre unfold and take place until they felt that basically the people were punished, meaning people of color, the black people were punished. It says about 10,000 black people were left homeless, and property damage amounted to more than 1.5 million in real estate and 750,000 in personal property, equivalent to 32.65 million in 2020. Many survivors left Tulsa, while black and white residents who stayed in the city largely kept what happened silent about, the terror, the violence, and all that resulted basically, for decades. The massacre was largely omitted from local state, and national histories. They don't teach this in school, you know. In 1996, 75 years later after the massacre, a bipartisan group in the state legislature authorized the formation of the Oklahoma Commission to study the Tulsa race riot in 1921. The commission finally the commission's final report published in 2001 states that the city had comprised with the mob of white citizens and black citizens. It recommended a program of reparations to the survivors and their descendants. The state passed legislation to establish scholarships for the descendants of the survivors, encouraged the economic development of Greenwood, and developed a park in memory of the victims of the massacre in Tulsa. The park was dedicated in 2010. Schools in Oklahoma have been required to teach students about this massacre since 2002, but in 2020, the massacre officially became a part of the Oklahoma school curriculum. But they never taught that anywhere else because um, they wouldn't want you to know about the tyranny that takes place in the great US of A.